We are in the 10th book, the book of purity. Oops. Okay, there we are. And we're doing the laws today, first chapter of Mikvah, which is the last part of the book of purity, the 10th book. Mikvah is a ritualarium that brings purity for those who are impure in many different ways, as we will learn. So, introduction to Hilchos Mikvahs, including the text, is one positive commandment that all impure individuals should immerse themselves in a mikvah and then regain purity. This mitzvah is explained in some chapters. Okay. Interesting. The mitzvah. Okay. All impure entities, whether humans or vessels, keli, whether they've contracted severe impurity. So in the introduction, it only mentions about a person. Hmm, interesting. Because it's not just humans, it's vessels too, right? Whether it's a severe impurity of that scriptural origin or whether contracted rabbinic impurity, regain purity only through the immersion of a water that's collected in a pool in the ground, right? Pool doesn't mean literally a swimming pool. That means, um, right, gathered waters. Okay, whether the Torah mentions washing one's flesh or laundering one's garments from impurity, the intent is solely the immersion of the entire body or article in the mikvah. Right. By the way, I realize that the translation over here in English, it says here individuals is incorrect because it doesn't, in the Hebrew, it doesn't say individuals. It just says whatever is impure needs to be brought into a mikvah to regain purity. So, in the case. And as we say very clearly, right? The Torah does speak about it, as we've learned in Chumash Rashi. So the intent is again the immersion of the entire body or the article in the mikvah, as it says in the phrase in Vayikra, and he did not wash his hands in water, also refers to the immersion of the entire body. This also applies to other impure people. If one immersed himself entirely, with the exception of the tip of the little finger, he is still ritually impure. Although all of these matters have their source in the oral tradition, the verse does state, he shall enter water. He remains impure until the evening, and then it becomes pure. This rule is then applied with regard to all those impure. They must enter water. Right. So the source is really the oral tradition, because when you read it in the five books of Moses, you could understand it differently. Let's, very frank. And that's why, it's very important that we appreciate that the oral tradition, right, the Mishnah, the Gemara, and so on, is like the soul to a body. You'd have a body of the five books of Moses, and here in Leviticus, and it says something, and it's very ambiguous. So you need the soul, which is the oral tradition that gives us life to its meaning and to give us the parameters and the true understanding of its meanings. And that's, of course, very much debated in the Talmud. So like in Rambam, we're getting the adjudication of the law. We're not getting the debate here, right? Some things are very much debated. Other things are minimally debated, and some things um, are not, because they are um, Um, because sometimes things are handed down that this is what it is, right? Like for example, I give you an example by tefillin, right? So we have no place where it says it needs to be black, right? Doesn't in in the verses you can't see anything like that. That's handed down Mount Sinai from Moses. That these there's like 10 different things that are you couldn't you couldn't extract it from the words. Other things you'll extract from the words and can be debated based on that. Because if it wasn't handed down, if it was handed down that this is what the meaning is, period. That's what the meaning is. Okay. So in other words, over here when he says he shall enter water, well, who says maybe he enter water? So who says he can't leave his pinky out? Where the oral tradition tells us that's what it means, and that's what it means. Finished. It's there. It's not a debate. Okay, I hope that was clear. Number three, all kalim, all vessels, implements that contract impurity, things that we learned in the previous part of Rambam was, right, the laws of vessels, kalim, right, which is, so purified through immersion in the mikvah with the exception of an earthenware container, a glass kli, and a reed mat. With regard to earthenware container, it says, and you shall break it, implying that the purification comes only through breaking it. Even if it was joined to the earth, even affixed to it with a nail, and even if it was filled with lime or gypsum, it retains its impurity until it's broken. Our sages consider glass kalim, like earthenware, containers with this respect. So how do you regain its purity? By breaking it. By breaking it, then you could now remake it, right? Well, that's something we learned in the previous, again, we learned previously. The reed mat is not included among kalim that are susceptible to all other types of impurity, since it does not have a receptacle, right? Something we learned about a vessel. This is a vessel. By this is earthenware, right? So if it became impure, it'd have to be broken in order to become pure. Now, as we learned, not everything has to become pure. You don't have to have it that way. Some people lived only with pure things in their lives, but you don't have to. Just I couldn't use this if it was impure. If I wanted to go to the third, I wanted to go to the Holy Temple and have second tithes and celebrate the holiday there. So I could only use this at home if I wasn't careful, if I wasn't particular and that everything should be pure. Again, halachically, it doesn't have to be that way, as we have learned, right? So this is a receptacle. That's what a vessel means. It's a receptacle. A reed mat is not a receptacle. It's flat, right? So it's not a receptacle. It's not in the category of a wooden kalim, which are mentioned in Torah. So Torah speaks of a wooden a wooden keli that's flat. So it's not a vessel. But the Torah mentions it also can become susceptible, right? Nevertheless, it's fit to lie upon it. Which is including the kalim susceptible to midrash impurity according to the scriptural law. So a reed mat, since you could lie on it, so we learned yesterday those laws of midrash. Midrash means that you can be supported by it, whether you're supported because you lie on it, because you sit on it, or you just even lean on it, right? So we learned yesterday, for example, a cane is not susceptible to, if it was made from if it's not made from wood or whatever, it's not susceptible. Why? Because even though you lean on it, but you're not fully supported by it, as opposed to a walking thing, a walker would be, because that is more full support, by way of example. Now, since there is no explicit mention of its association with purity, and impurity in the Torah, and yet is included among the articles that contract impurity. It's not included within regard to the purification through the immersion of mikvah. Aha. So the mat reed is something different, and therefore it's not a right. For only can mention in the Torah that can be purified by the mikvah. A reed mat can be purified only by being torn to the extent that it remained less than 6 handbreadths by 6 handbreadths by 6 handbreadths, right? This size, 6 of these rather, right? And then it could be purified. In other words, it's because then less than that, it's not a functional mat, and therefore it's considered, since it's not functional, so therefore it becomes purified. Okay, I would love to continue. All right.
Thank you.
I thank you, folks, for your, most of you have kindly helped out with the campaign. If you can just forward my, I don't know if you liked my video. If you saw my video, did I send it? I don't know if I sent it. I did, and I will. Or, whatever you can forward and that people should to give. That would be amazing.